So welcome tonight. We're going to talk about the Pinewood Derby. And the purpose tonight is to help you have a fun time with your son or daughter making the car. Understand a little bit about how the Pinewood Derby runs and what all is involved with it. Make sure that your car is legal on race day because we don't want any super sad kids and super angry parents that morning when we have a car that's not allowed to race. And then finally, because you are here and in person, we'll have some tips on how to make your car go faster or look cooler. Okay, so first off, what is our Pinewood Derby? Because how many of you did Pinewood Derby when you were kids, raced in a Pinewood Derby? Some of you yes, some of you no. If you have not done it, Pinewood Derby is a fun race. You get a block of wood in a box, and you get to make some sort of little race car with it. And then we will spend a day racing here at the church. So it's a fun race, it's a good design contest. It's an activity for parents or grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, whoever, to work hand in hand with their kids. It's a chance to be creative. It's an opportunity to learn a little bit about physics and some fabrication skills. And it's an event that teaches both competition and sportsmanship. And I want to kind of go back here to the one that says the activity for parents, grandparents, neighbors, whoever, to work with hand in hand with their kids. Understand with Pinewood Derby, we would like the children to help make the cars. That's kind of the point of doing this derby. We also understand that at different age levels, they're going to have different abilities to help. So when they're lions and tigers, the amount of help their help might be limited to picking out a paint color, choosing a design or making some design suggestions. But usually even in kindergarten and first grade, they can run a sanding block for a little while, maybe an orbital sander, do some things like that. We understand they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. But what we would like to do is every year you do the Pinewood Derby with your child, we'd like them to do a little bit more. I have a rule in my house that I start my kids on when they're very, very young, which is, if you're not sitting here next to me, I'm not working on your car. The point is for the child to learn. And it worked really well. I have two boys, one of them's now in high school. In first grade, he could not spray paint his car because he couldn't push the button down hard enough to make it spray. He was limited to sanding and picking out colors and things like that. By the time he was in fifth grade, he was doing everything himself, and I was just sitting down there making sure he was safe and not getting hurt. That was our transition. He still makes Pinewood Derby cars, and he does it all on his own, and he's very good at it. The idea is we're teaching them a little bit. Some kids are going to be good at it, some kids aren't going to be good at it, but we still want them to learn. We want them to learn how to use a drill, how to use a saw, how to be safe, how to spray paint, all those sorts of things. Okay? The saddest thing for me is when I come up to a kid on Pinewood Derby Day, and this has happened exactly as I'm going to describe it, and say to a child, hey, are you excited to race today? Yeah. Did you have a lot of fun making this car with your dad? No. My dad doesn't let me touch it until we get here. Okay, that's not what we want to hear. We don't want to hear that the parent made the car all by themselves, or that you bought a car that was ready-made, or something like that. We want to hear that the child got to have some input, got to have a little bit of fun. Does it mean the car is going to be perfect? No, not necessarily. Are you allowed to go behind and clean stuff up? Yes, certainly you are. Okay, but we want them to be involved. Okay, this is our track basically. It's a 35-foot aluminum track. We run 4 lanes here. If you're old like me, you might remember 2-lane wooden tracks where the cars are bumping along down at the bottom, and there's a person with a flag or a hand saying it's the one on the right or it's the one on the left. Nope. We have 4-lane aluminum. We have an electronic timing system tied to the release of the starting gate. So there's our starting gate for you. It's those little black rods there in the center. There's a hand switch on the side for releasing them. Those will drop, and all the cars will start at the same time. As soon as that drops, starts the electronic timer, and then there's an electronic finish line. So you will actually be able to see in real time which car finishes first. It's the one that trips the electronic eye. Okay, our timer accuracy is out to 5/10,000ths of a second. All of our results are sent to a laptop computer. So there's no more, there were once upon a time, there were fist fights over whose car finished first, or people arguing with judges. We don't have any of that. We've taken all that out of the equation. So our race rules. We're part of Northwest District. We use Northwest District's rules, and that is because the top 2 finishers in speed and the top 2 finishers in our design competition for each den, so each age level plus our girls' den, we could send those top 2 finishers in each of those categories to the district races. And in order to do that, we have to follow the district guidelines. Okay, we will send out a copy of the district guidelines to everybody. They are finalized. I checked them out today. I found a typo, so I'm trying to get clarification on them, get them fixed before we send it out. The car must be made using the materials in the official Pinewood Derby car kit. When you open it up, you will get a block of wood, roughly about that size. Has grooves in the bottom of it. Those are your axle holes. And you will get four plastic wheels, some little number stickers that you're going to throw away. At least if you're going for speed, you're going to throw them away. And you'll get 4 little nails. Look about like that. You have to use these parts. Okay? You can go to the Scout Shop. The Scout Shop sells the little axles. It sells the little wheels. It sells them in different colors. You can buy more of them, but you have to use these specific official BSA parts. And we're very careful about that. Don't go to Hobby Lobby. Don't go to Michael's. Don't order them online through anybody but BSA. And the reason is there are kits out there that say they are BSA certified, and they probably are, but they are certified by other councils, other districts, and they are actually illegal to use in our races. And just because it's me, of course, I have some illegal parts here. So I have nails that are the wrong size. And if we catch you using the nails out of the wrong size, we have to disqualify you. I have solid axles that go all the way across the bottom of the car, and that's illegal in Northwest District. I have wheels, and I don't know that you can see it. The wheel has holes in it, okay, like bicycle spokes. This changes the weight of the wheel, and that's illegal. So there's a whole lot of illegal parts out there. Pine Car brand has car kits. I've bought them before just for the chunk of wood, and that's why I have the rest of that stuff. I can't use it on any of my cars because it's illegal. So be very, very careful. You don't have to use, like I said, you don't have to use the stuff that comes out of the box. If there's a problem with the wood block, if you bend one of the nails, if you break a tire, or if you're gluing it the night before and you're gluing the axles in place and the super glue weeps out and glues the tires to the axles, you can go to the Scout Shop and you can buy replacements, or you can buy different colors or things like that. That's all okay. Okay, but it has to be that official BSA stuff so we don't have to disqualify the car. The morning of the race, the racers have to check in at a vehicle inspection prior to racing. We will ask for parent volunteers to come help. We have some experienced parents who will help train you. Please understand that every once in a while, parents volunteering and checking out cars do occasionally miss things. So a car will pass inspection, and then later on during the day, we will call the parent over for a consultation about what we're going to do about the car. That happens because, again, we're using volunteers, we're using new people. We're not trying to do anything bad or shady. We had it happen in our race this past spring. It was a very unfortunate event. We told the dad it was fine. We weren't going to disqualify the kids. They had passed, but it was just something that needed to be fixed before they got to districts. But again, we're not trying to make it too difficult on everybody, but we're trying to have a level playing field. Once cars are turned in, they're held by the race officials until race time. There's no other adjustments or lubrication after check-in. We do, as you're getting ready to turn your car in at the check-in table, after they've gone through and done the checks on it, we do allow you to put graphite on it one last time, if you so desire, and then once it goes into our holding area, then nobody touches it until race time. Cars can be disqualified from racing if they do not pass inspection. Okay? And we're going to go through some of the things we're going to be looking for and give you some hints on how to get around that. On the morning of the race, we will have a pit area with some tools. We usually have drills, chisels, screwdrivers, things like that. If you have to make last-minute adjustments to the car to make them legal and able to run, it's okay. You can do that. We will even send people over to work with you to try and help you through it. It's usually an issue of car being too long, cars having weights on the underside and not clearing the track. Every once in a while, it's a matter of wheels not touching, but we will work with you and we will try to get it fixed so that your child's car can race. Okay? These are the official rules, which are about to get sent out. This one right here is the one that's at issue. The overall car width shall not exceed 2.5 inches. The 2.5 inches is, they dropped a 1/4 inch off of last year's, and I don't think they meant to make the car smaller, so we need to get that fixed. So that's why I haven't sent them out. Overall length of the car shall not exceed 7 inches. That one is super, super, super important, because when you get this block of wood out of your box, it is going to be just a little bit longer than 7 inches. So the very first thing I do every year when my son and I get it out, we put it on the miter saw and we cut the back end off the car. Okay? Give yourself 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, whatever you want to do. You need to make the car shorter because they are all too long when they come in the box. I don't know why they do that, but they do that. Okay? So that is your first step, is to try and cut your car down. Hi, you will. You will. Okay? I feel like Jimmy Fallon or Leno or somebody working with kids. So you're going to cut your car down because you don't want the day of the race to be shaving paint off the front or back of your child's car to try and get it down to the proper length. Width is not usually an issue. Minimum width between inside edge of the wheels is 1 3/4 inches. Effectively, when you get it, don't shave the car from side to side. Just leave it this width. If you want to give it some shape and cut into it, then leave the areas around your axles at this width, because these are actually properly sized and you'll be okay there. Height, overall car height shall not exceed 3.5 inches. That's actually an increase of 3/4 of an inch over last year. In prior years at district, you were allowed to have extra add-ons on your car that made it bigger than the 3.5 by 2 3/4. If you were just going for design, we have to have those sizes so that they clear all the gates and the cars aren't damaged, or we don't damage the track and its equipment. The new rule this year is even cars going for design have to meet the size specifications here. They got a little bit big and somewhat silly last year with like hot air balloons up above them and things where they were no longer looking like Pinewood Derby cars. So that was a district decision. They have to meet it, so we will enforce that at the pack level as well. We do have testing jigs where you can check the size of your car. We will have those out at the January pack meeting. We'll have those out again at the February pack meeting. We will have those out the night before the race. So if you come here and help set up the race as a volunteer, hint, 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 you can also check your child's car. It's not an official check-in, but you can unofficially check it to see if you need to make any quick adjustments to it that night. And then those will be the jigs that we use Saturday morning. Car weight. Car shall not exceed 5 ounces. Okay, all weight must be securely built into or attached onto the car. No movable weighting is allowed. I will let you know, if you go to the hobby stores, you can find these how-to books, how to build a Pinewood Derby car or Design for Speed. Be careful with these also, because again, these are written not for our set of rules. So they talk about having moving weights inside your car to give you an advantage. They will talk about doing things so that it's more than 5 ounces. You know, just be careful as you read these, that you understand that they're not written specifically for our rules and you have to take it with a grain of salt. There's also no, it's not on there. We ought to have that on there. You can't have anything extra on your car, so there's no rubber bands to give it a little bit more speed. You cannot use compressed air cylinders in your car to give it a boost. And you guys laugh, but people have done it and tried it in the past, and none of those things are allowed in our race. Car weight shall not exceed 5 ounces on the official scale. So if it was 5 ounces at home, but it's reading 5.1, we can't let it race and you have to remove a little bit of material from your car. And we've watched people take a drill and drill out 1/4 inch hole after 1/4 inch hole on their car and make it look like Swiss cheese just to get down to weight. We'll talk about a way to avoid that, okay? Because you guys are here. Wheels and bearings, washers, bushings, or bearings of any kind are not allowed. I have some hubs over there that you can put on the end of the axles. You're not allowed to use those either. Wheels and axles. So wheels and axles must be official BSA Pinewood Derby products only. No paint or decoration are allowed on the wheels and axles. So see this car here? I decided to make it look really nice. So I painted up some rims for it and highlighted the text on there. I just made that car illegal because I put paint on my wheels. If you want your car's wheels to match the rest of the design, that's where you have to go to the Scout shop and purchase wheels that are the correct color. You're not allowed to paint the wheels. Axles have to be inserted into pre-made slots and have to be visible. So You've got these slots here. We will allow you, these slots don't always come square. So you can check if they're square. If they're not, you can put a saw in there and adjust it back to square. That's okay. You can also pre-drill the hole a little bit to make the axle go in a little bit better. That's okay, but you must use these slots that are here. You cannot change the slots. You cannot change the distance. You notice on this car, the axles do not match up to where the slots are on my block here, so this car would not be allowed because the axles were re-drilled, okay? I go with a solid bottom. Here's one. This one has a solid bottom on it, so I spackled over all of the holes down there for wind resistance. This car is illegal because I can't see the axles. I can't tell that they end and they don't join together, okay? This one here, I've glued over the axles to keep the axles in place, but I left a gap there in the middle so that the person doing the inspection can see that they're two individual axles. That's okay. That's acceptable. But we have to make life easy for the inspectors. The other thing is you'll notice that the bottoms of these cars have no paint on them. Don't paint the bottom of your car. Every year we have somebody who comes with the bottom of the car painted. We have to ask them to scrape that paint away. We have to be able to see that it was a start of a pine block, because we don't want to have any carbon fiber cars or anything like that running in there. And again, you guys laugh, but some people take this race way too seriously, and they will try to do this sort of stuff. So, light polishing of wheels and axles is allowed. We'll talk about that in a little bit. No machining or grooving of axles is allowed. No thinning of wheels or removal of tread is allowed. All four wheels must touch the track and roll. This is one of the harder things, and one that tends to get people a little bit hot and bothered and working kind of hard right beforehand to try and get it to work. Okay? The axles are little nails that we're putting into grooves that aren't that great to begin with, and sometimes the axles are bent. I found in here, I have a little thing labeled scrap parts, and these are axles that are just too bent for me to even consider using. Okay? For this specific one, when my kids and I are done with their car, we will sit at our kitchen table, which has one of those divider lines so you can make an expanding table, has a divider line, but the table itself is flat, and we will sit there, put the car along it, and lightly push it back and forth. Number one, we're watching to see if our car goes straight, but number two, we're making sure all those wheels are touching and rolling. And you don't want to put your hand in the middle, push down, and push it. Because if you do that, all the axles are going to bend up a little bit anyway, and yes, all four of them are going to run. When we are testing it, when you're doing check-in, we're going to give it the lightest push possible to make sure all four wheels are touching. Because it actually is a speed advantage to go with only 3 wheels. You reduce your amount of friction, and you can make your car go faster. Okay? So they have to touch, they have to roll. If you have to make adjustments before you have glued them in, so when I'm doing this test with my sons, we're just pushing it back and forth. The axles have been pushed into the holes but not glued. And what we start doing is we say, okay, we're going to swap this axle on the right side in the rear for the driver's side front wheel. Let's see what happens if we swap those 2 axles. Sometimes if the axles are slightly bent, because again, they come slightly bent, we can just take a needle nose pliers or something and twist it a little bit, and we'll get them to line up. Okay, but we will sit there and we will keep matching the wheels back and forth, or mixing and matching, until we get all 4 wheels, and that is the point at which I will then glue it. Okay, and then we do it one more test. If you on race day you realize, oh my gosh, my wheels aren't touching, I don't have time to do all that extra stuff, this one's not touching, so I'm just gonna put my thumb here and I'm gonna push down to try and bend that axle a little bit so it's touching. Please don't do that. Again, these car kits aren't that great. You will pop this wood out right here, you'll pop your axle out, now your axle's loose and won't go in and your child can't race. What we would say instead of pushing this one out is, if this one's not touching, take a screwdriver and put it on the axle on this side and try to tap it in farther if you can. So we want to push it farther into the groove, which will lower the front of the car so that both of them touch. Okay? Those are the sorts of things too that we'll remind you of on race day. Any car suspected of using illegal axles or wheels will be automatically disqualified. If we inspect it, we will disqualify. We always carry some extra axles and wheels in case somebody comes with illegal ones. We can have you swap out, but we only have a limited amount. We don't tend to get to the point of completely disqualifying people. They have before at districts taken a car apart and disqualified it because the people assured them, nope, 2 axles, but they were hiding it, and they chiseled into it and found that it was a single axle hole, or a single solid axle. Again, it's surprising, but people take this race very, very seriously. For lubricants, only powdered lubricants, black graphite, white Teflon are allowed. And you can purchase that. I think they sell it even at Meijer's. But your finer hobby stores have it. Comes in a tube or a little bottle like that. But you only want the powdered graphite. You do not want to add any liquid to it to make it flow better in there. We do not allow any liquid lubricants. They tend to leak off the car. The graphite does too. If you see our track, it is covered with powdered graphite. But that does not interfere with the race. If we get liquid on that track, that will interfere with the race. It changes the cars going through that, so no liquid lubricants are allowed. Okay? No suspensions or drive springs. I've never seen that. I don't know. I guess somebody saw it once. There's no paint allowed on the bottom of the car, so the pine block's visible, but the name of the child and their unit number should be written on there. Unit number is more important when you get to districts, not so important for Pack149. But if you're doing it, you might as well go ahead and do it early. Details, you can put things on like steering wheels, drivers, roll bars, fenders, as long as they don't exceed the overall dimensions. We had somebody build one a few years ago that looked like SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob had little arms that popped in the sides of the car and little feet that stuck off the end. That's not allowed anymore because they exceeded the dimensions. They did it that way so they could pop them off for the race and then pop them back in for design. We can't even put them on for design anymore. All glitter, if your child puts glitter on their car, must be sealed in a clear coat finish so that we do not end up with glitter on our track in addition to graphite. Okay? Pinewood Derby car must be freewheeling. No starting devices are allowed. Starting line, no part of the Pinewood Derby car can protrude past the starting line for any reason. Some people get very clever. They look at the front of the car and they say, hey, if I make this moon-shaped here, the front of the car, there's that bar in the middle that's going to drop to release the car. So that'll let my car start down a little farther. We don't allow any part of the car past that bar. It has to rest up against there. Okay? Inspection, there's just more about the inspection. In the end, it comes down to the discretion of the race chairperson. It's up to them. Now, usually before they completely disqualify a car, they come talk to the Cubmaster too, and we try to work something out. But especially at districts, it is up to the district chairperson. These are just the different levels. We'll talk about those. High-tech design, we'll talk about that. And here's pack registration. You guys don't need to know that right now. Okay, so summary of the rules. Maximum width, which I think is wrong right now. Maximum height, 3.5 inches. Maximum length, 7 inches. Remember, open the box, chop the back end of the block off. That's the very first thing you want to do. Minimum width between the wheels, 1 3/4 inches. Clearance from the bottom of the car to the track, about 3/8 of an inch. And if you simply put the car together, you won't, you'll meet that 3/8 of an inch. You don't have to do anything to adjust that. Wheelbase, again, you have to use those pre-cut axle slots, and your maximum weight is 5 ounces. All 4 wheels have to roll. Okay, so that's our big summary right there. So things that are not allowed. Again, you cannot extend the wheelbase. So here's where the slots are. And now we're putting it out farther. So number 1, it has to be a slot so that we can see it. But number 2, we can't extend and put a new hole in there. Okay? We can't have raised wheels, so we can't change the height. If you cut these out, do not change the height of them. Do not attempt to put your axles up higher into the car. Just cut it to square it up is all you really want to do. No modified wheels or profiles, no modified axles, no liquid lubricants, no magnets or motors, anything like that. These are unacceptable wheels. So these have been shaved down so that there's only 2 points of contact on them, or these have been shaved down to 1 point of contact. I will pass this guy around. So number 1, let's pass one that actually meets inspection. So the gold car that's going to go around here, number 24, this one has met inspection. It is not raced in a Pinewood Derby because it's actually my car that I race against my kids. But it would pass if it went around. So take a look at that. And then look at the silver car that's going to go around with it, because silver car is illegal. Okay, number 1, just looking at it, you can see that the wheels are bent. Number 2, the wheels have been thinned down a little bit. I can look on the back side of them and I can see the sanding marks on them, and the whole width of the wheel has been decreased. Okay, so you might want to hold them up next to each other real quick, just to look at those wheel widths. Okay, This one's even more obvious. I don't know if you can see, those wheels are really, really, really thin. Again, really illegal too. Okay, so don't do that. Don't mess with the wheels on the car. Okay. This one again, this one's showing some of that sanding on the inside. One of the advantages with Pinewood Derby racing, if you get into the physics, if you have a car going down a track and you have a lot of weight, it's taking a lot of the car's energy to spin those wheels. Okay, or some of the energy from the downhill is getting used up to spin the wheels and it's not being transferred to the speed of the car. So by lightening the wheels, by thinning them down, you give your car an advantage and it'll move faster. We want everybody to be on a level playing field when it comes to the wheels. So there is no thinning, no sanding on the inside. Okay. For your axles, when they come, when you get those little nails out, you're going to see there's these triangular burrs up here in the corner. And then there's these crimp marks from the machining process. It's okay to remove those burrs. It's okay to smooth out the crimp marks. Okay, we consider that part of the light polishing. You can lightly polish the axles. What we don't want you doing is thinning the axles down. Okay, the axle should be installed straight so that the car tracks straight. The reason you want it to track straight, and the reason that my kids and I put it on the kitchen table, is if it's hitting the side, the bump it's bumping into the sides, every time it hits, it loses a little bit of energy as it's bumping along there. Okay? Axle should be placed as deep into the slots as possible. So you don't have a whole lot of room here, but you don't want to put your axles down at the bottom because now it's pretty weak. The axles have an easy time of breaking out of the wood there. And you really don't want to have a broken axle and be trying to fix things with super glue at the last minute. Okay, so get them up into those slots as far as you possibly can. Beware of breaking the nail out of the axle slot. You might want to pre-drill the holes. And so one of the tools you can buy, and they do sell at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and places like that, or online, is a little drill guide like this. It has a hole here in the end that matches up with the top of the axle hole. It has a bit that goes in there that's more or less the same dimensions as your nail. These simply snap onto the car as long as you get them in the right spot. So we look through and make sure we can see the axle hole through the little hole, and then we put the drill in there and drill it. And that allows us to get those axles in straight and make it a better chance that we have all four wheels touching on our car. Okay, but again, you have to do it in the axle holes that are existing. All you're doing is basically rounding out those holes a little bit to make it easier for the axles to fit in there so that you don't break the axle hole out. These are some unacceptable axles. I think you can see they've been thinned down. And again, what they did in thinning these down is they've reduced the point of contact with the wheel itself. So one of the things that slows a car down is friction. So on that 2 slides ago, we saw the wheels only having a single point where they're touching the track. That reduces your friction. Also, if you can reduce the friction between the axles and the wheels. This is illegal, and if we suspect this has happened, your car will be disqualified. The problem that we had last year with the car was, if you look here, you can see the head of this nail on the outside of this tire. Okay, very easy to see. When they were polishing up their wheels or their axles, and we are not sure which, and we're taking the parent at their word that it was accidental, they cleared a little too much material out of there. And during the race, we were seeing this axle disappear inside the wheel. Well, that meant that there wasn't as much contact there. There'd been some extra clearance. And so the car was going a little bit faster because of the reduced friction. To us, it wasn't major enough to disqualify them from our race, but we could not in good faith tell them they could go on to districts that way and suggest that they had to replace all the wheels and axles on their car. So be careful when you're doing this cleaning. Don't take away too much material. It is awkward to have to explain that you got a little overzealous in cleaning, and that's why your child's car is now illegal. Speed hints weight. You want to get as close to 5 ounces as possible without going over. It's just like the Price is Right. Okay, if you're over, you can't race. If you're under, and I'm going to pass this car around too, and here, I'll pass this one. So we do an outlaw derby as well, and so my kids and I make funny designs for that, so this is my outlaw derby car. So my dad didn't help me with this car. It's actually very, very fast. It came in second place last year. But feel the weight difference between. This is an unweighted car, and this one is up at 5 ounces. The unweighted car may not make it all the way down to the finish line. It doesn't have enough mass to it to overcome the friction on the straightaway. Okay, so you want to get some weight on there. Can you come in and race a 4-ounce car or a 3-ounce car? Sure, we will let you do that. We don't suggest it, but it's perfectly legal to do that. But you cannot be over the 5 ounces. Thank you. Okay, you can't be over the 5. So this says the deadly scale counter is your best friend. I knew I was in for 11 years or so of Pinewood Derby racing, so it was worth it to go spend 20 bucks on a postal scale and put it in my basement, because we build at least 3 cars every year. And so we know we're going to be using a whole bunch of them, or find somebody who has a postal scale and borrow one for a month or so. Okay? But you want to get as close to 5 ounces as possible. And I said you don't want to go over. So I don't know if you've noticed, but some of these cars that are going around have these black dots on the back, right? Okay. So my preference for weights, you can buy all kinds. Did I put that? Yep, I put that in here. My preference for weights are these round tungsten weights. Okay. If you buy the cheaper weights, you will have to drill so many holes in the car. You're going to get tired of it. They're hard to jam in there. These are more expensive. However, if you use the 40% off coupon at Hobby Lobby and simply go in and buy a set every time you drive past Hobby Lobby, they're not too bad. You can drill a single hole like this car. So this is drilled out, and there are weights going all the way down to about here in the car. And it's just a single line of weights. You can drill holes in the underside and put the weights in there. This one has a double set of holes in the back. I've done triple before. It depends on where I want my center of gravity and where I want my car to balance. Okay, so I put weights in there, but I leave a gap. I leave a gap of about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch in the very back of the car. And then, I told you I'm doing this for 11 years, so I buy a lot of stuff. I have this special stuff. This is tungsten putty, which is also available at Hobby Lobby, and it's available from the Scout Shop. Again, it's a little bit expensive, but it's kind of like Play-Doh, but it's really, really heavy Play-Doh. So I will get the weight of my car up to about 4.9 on my house scale, and then I start packing tungsten putty into the back end of the car until I'm at or even slightly overweight. When my son and I go in and weigh the car in the morning, I always carry one of these cans. You always wondered what you should do with popcorn tins afterwards. This is our crash kit. Okay? It has a glue gun, it has super glue, it has pencils, it has spare axles and wheels, just in case we need them, legal ones, not illegal. But it also has an X-Acto knife in there. And on the day of the race, if we're overweight, we get the X-Acto knife and we start cutting putty out of the back of the car until we're down to the right weight. Okay? I definitely suggest doing that, because it is much easier to adjust the weight on your child's car scraping putty out of the back, or if you've glued pennies on top, popping pennies off, than it is drilling holes in wood trying to get it down to weight. Okay? So it's a suggestion from me to you to try and do something like that. It doesn't have to be the putty. There it is. Goes in there. Okay, but that's just a little tip to make things a little bit better. Because again, you're going to have to make adjustments. Every once in a while we'll go to districts, and the district scale is off of what the scale is here at Epworth when we're running ours. We have to abide by whatever scale is working that day. Okay? If you are adding weights, there are flat weights that you can glue onto a car. They have double-sided tape on them. You can stick them on. You can screw. Some of them come with little screws. You can screw them on. Put them on the top of the car, or cut out the car and tuck them up inside. Please, 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 please do not stick them on the bottom of the car or glue them on the bottom of the car, because there's only about this much clearance underneath for the wheels, right? And those weights stick down about that far. These are running down a track that has a guide that goes down the middle of the car. Okay, so if it's going down the middle of the car and those weights are catching on it, your car is just going to sit there because it's now lifted all the wheels up off the track. So do not put any weights on the very bottom of the car. Again, you can cut out the bottom and glue them up in there and then spackle over it, or use wood filler or whatever, but don't have anything extend down past the bottom of the car, because it will stop it from rolling. Even if it just barely clears on the flat parts, when it gets down to the bottom to make that curve, it's going to catch and your car is going to get stuck. Okay? It's advantageous to put the weight in the back of the car. There's more potential energy. Okay, for all of you physics majors, do I have any physics majors out here? No physics, okay. Engineers? No. Okay. Cars are going to start like this. They're going to travel down a track and they're going to flatten out at the bottom. Okay? The amount of energy they're going to build up, thank you. The amount of energy they build up is based on the distance that weight drops. So I want the weight to drop from the highest point down to the lowest point. Okay? Some people say I should put the weight in the front of the car, it'll help pull it down the track. Yeah, I don't know that I believe that. I've never seen it work. Okay? My math tells me that it doesn't work. So you want to put the weight towards the back of the car, but don't go too far back. Because if you go too far back, when it gets down to the bottom, these front wheels aren't touching real well. And so it starts to jitter down the track and starts banging into the sides. Okay? That means you got your weight too far back. That's actually the problem with this silver car. In basement testing, because yes, in my family we built a wooden track in our basement one year and we're testing cars, this was the fastest in the downhill. But when it gets to the straightaway, it finishes terribly because it's got so much of the back weight that it jitters, that it doesn't go straight anymore. Okay? So you actually want your weights to be somewhere, your center of gravity should be somewhere between the two sets of wheels. When you put it on, didn't bring anything. I have a thin piece of wood that I use at home, and I will actually balance the car on that thin piece of wood. And this one is weighted too far to the back because when I'm touching those wheels with the book, it should be balancing. Okay? Really don't want to drop my car in here. There we go. Okay, so I want my weight towards the back, but definitely between the wheels. Okay, so it can drop as far as possible. And you've got to find the sweet spot. I am not going to tell you what it is because I don't give away all of my kids' secrets. However, I'm sure if you do some internet searches, you can probably find some advice on where to put it. Okay? Some other physics. Aerodynamics do play a small role. So I will let you know that my older son's first car looked like this, and his second car looked like this, and his third car looked like this, and then one year he didn't do that, and then the next year his car went back to looking like this. Okay? We have now 20 or 25 race cars in our house, of which all but maybe 4 or 5 look like doorstops. Okay? You cannot go wrong with the wedge. Okay? Aerodynamics play a small role. Really getting those axles straight and having your car move straight, that's the best. About the only other shape that really works well is a flat shape like this because you're reducing drag on your car. Okay? If your child wants to put, they sell these lead weights that look like drivers and it's a guy with a steering wheel that sits up real high, that's fine. If that's what they want to do and you're fine with it, that's good. It's not going to win any speed races. Okay? This one, though, I did do for the Outlaw race just to prove that aerodynamics did not have that much to do with how fast the car goes. It has very illegal wheels. They're very thin. The axles have been thinned down. Again, it's Outlaw. I'm allowed to do that. The weight is perfectly put in here. This got second place to a car that was one of those nice flat cars, but it beat a whole lot of wedges just by putting weight in the right places and things like that. Okay, so, but if you are going for speed, avoid the large bulky attachments. Okay, don't glue a Lego guy on top. It looks good, but it's not going to win any races. Friction is your number one enemy. Dry lube is absolute to make your car go fast. Okay, you will get dirty. Your car will get dirty. Your child's car will get dirty. Your child will get dirty. Graphite will fly everywhere, but dirty cars win. This one has never really raced, and you can tell because it's clean, especially looking on the bottom. I brought one of his racing cars. This is what our cars usually look like. So notice all the black smudges on the bottom. Both my sons always cry just a little bit because we paint up the car, we get the real nice, whatever design they want, and then we start putting graphite on and we get black smudges all over the car. This is a fast car. It's not going to win in design, but it's going to be fast because of all those smudges. Okay? We have a dedicated hand towel in our house that goes out on the table before we start putting graphite on the cars. Because my wife complains about getting graphite on the kitchen table and the counters and things like that. I don't know why, but she doesn't like it when we do things like that. Okay? But cars will get dirty, kids will get dirty, parents will get dirty, It's normal. Before these go on the shelf, we use compressed air and we blow as much of the graphite off as we can, and they still look like that. Okay? Check your wheels. Again, you can lightly sand the outside of the wheels if you need to remove any molding burrs, because bumps equal lost speed. Okay? Clear coats are good on cars. If you put any stickers or decals on, I definitely recommend a clear coat because that helps smooth that out. That's why these little number stickers that they pass out, we just throw them away in our house. They stick up too much. They're too thick. We prefer the thin plastic decals. Again, you can buy that sort of stuff at hobby shops and things like that. Okay? On race day, this is our schedule from a couple years ago. I forgot to replace it with last year's, which had lions in it. We start pretty early in the morning. So this is not the official time, but if you had an Arrow of Light Scout this year, or in 2018, you were checking in between 7:45 and 8:15 in the morning for an 8:30 race time. We advise getting there at 7:45 at the beginning of your half-hour slot. Usually, if you get there a little bit early, we still have somebody who can check you in. Do not get there at 8:13 and try to check your child's car in, because if there's any problems, you're going to have 1 or 2 minutes to fix it, and then you're going to be told either you got to race it the way it is, or your son or daughter is disqualified and they can't race. So get there early. This is the cutoff, though, where we've impounded all the cars and we're getting ready to race. We don't accept any more cars after that. We have had people walk in late. We have had to tell people, we're sorry you can't race because we have already started and we don't have time to slot you in. There is some computer work that needs to be done before we race, and that's why we want everybody there early, so we know who's racing, we know how many cars are in the races, so the software can set it up properly. And we try to stick to this schedule. If we wait for people coming in late, it's going to push everybody back during the day. So you notice we start at 7:45. That means that the race organizers are getting here by 7 in the morning to get things going, and our outlaw race ends around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's a long day for the volunteers, so we want to stay on schedule. Please be on time. We don't do the pack meeting in the middle anymore. We do have Girl Scouts come from the church here and some of the other troops, and they're allowed to race in the afternoon. We do that for them. Okay, so plan to arrive at least 30 minutes before your child's race is scheduled to start. Scouts have to be in full uniform that day to compete. Even if they had a baseball game, hockey game, whatever, they need to come and change real quick, get into their shirt, their neckerchief, things like that, in order to compete. You should immediately check in at the front table. It will be very obvious. Okay, the car is inspected to make sure it meets the specifications and the rules. We start by weighing it. After we weigh it, we check some measurements on the wheels to make sure that they're going to clear everything. We make sure that all 4 wheels are going to roll. We look at the underside to make sure it's actually wood. We do all that kind of stuff. If it doesn't meet any of the specifications, you're able to modify the car at a nearby workstation, but these modifications have to be done 15 minutes before the race starts. That's where we close our check-in period. Once your car passes inspection, the inspection team places a number sticker somewhere on the car as an ID. Scouts have one final opportunity to apply graphite. We take a photo of the scout with his or her car, and then they're placed in our impound lot, which looks a lot like this. Once they're in the impound lot, the scout cannot touch the car again until race time. Parents cannot touch the car again, okay? Because it is a past inspection, we are done with it. Parents won't be touching it till after the races are over. Okay? In Pack149, every car is going to compete in both speed and design. Now, you should have it in mind with your child which one of those you're going to go for, okay? Because something that's going to win the design competition is probably not going to do well in the speed competition. Likewise, the wedges don't do real good against fancier cars. So after doing wedges for 3 years in a row, my older son said, "Dad, I want to go for design." So his car the year before had not done real great, so he decided to make a AAA tow truck with a little model of his car from the year before on the back of it. He spent a lot of time as a 4th grader with a Dremel and not telling his mom what was going on in the basement. And he did a great job on this. And 4th grade, I smoothed out some stuff for him, but he did most of the work himself. There was a lot of, "Dad, my arms are too tired and I can't keep dremeling." "Nope, you got another 15 minutes and you keep going, kid." He did a design. It's really cool. This is not a super fast car. It's up to 5 ounces. The weight's right in it. But because of the aerodynamics on it, it does not do well in a race. It won 1 heat in his 4 races. Everybody races 4 races because they have to race in each of the different lanes. He won 1 out of his 4. He was surprised that he beat any other cars with it. Okay? So if you're going for design, go all in on design and have fun with it. realize that design is very subjective in the voting. So may win, may not win, especially at the district level. This one didn't win in his den, but it did win for the overall pack design because we had different people voting. And then it went to districts and it didn't win. It got beat by somebody who had kind of painted Brutus the Buckeye on their car because there were a lot of Ohio State fans that day, I guess. Okay? Okay, we give out 3 trophies for each den. 3 for speed. Sorry, we give out 6. 3 for speed and 3 for design in each den. So if your den only has 6 people in you, congratulations, everybody goes home with a trophy. If your den has 21 people in it, I'm really sorry. There's going to be 15 kids who are not super happy. Okay? We do try to get the kids to cheer for their friends. So if you don't win, at least cheer for your friend who did win. Okay? We will inevitably have some tears. It's sad. It's like the most horrible part of my job is watching kids cry who don't get a trophy. But we do our best to cheer for our friends. The top 2 in each category are invited back that afternoon. We will have a pack-wide race of all ages. So we'll have tigers racing against Arrow of Lights and things like that. We'll have design as well. So we have another set of trophies there at the end of the day. Top 2 from each den are also eligible to compete in the District Pinewood Derby. It's held at Epworth here sometime in March. I think it's the second weekend in March. If one of those top 2 is unable to go to districts, we'll go to the third person. We like to send 2 people for speed, 2 people for design from each den to the district. Okay? Scouts, some scouts might finish in the top 3 of both categories. So you could conceivably get first place in speed and second place in design. That has happened. Your child's going to have to pick which one of those awards they want because we can only give them 1 trophy and then everybody else is going to get bumped up. That way we can give trophies to the maximum number of kids that day. Okay? And we usually let the kids pick. Sometimes it's surprising. We have had people turn down a first place trophy in speed because the kid really liked the design of his car and wanted that second place design trophy. It's up to the child. If the parents want to consult, they can, but you know, we're not going to do it. This is our voting ballot for design competition. So when you have the cars in the impound lot, they all have code numbers on them. We will get Boy Scouts and their parents from Troop 2 who are not related to anybody in the pack to vote for the cars. They put down their top 6 designs. No relatives or racers are allowed to vote. We had grandparents one year come in packing the vote for some kids. That was not a good thing. Okay? You get 6 points for a first place vote, 5 points for a second place vote, so on and so forth. At the end, the person whose car has the highest number of points, they are our design winner. Okay? And this takes place before the races, so we do this, then we move the cars over, and now they start racing. That way, if they're damaged during the race, and occasionally a car does go flying off the racetrack sideways, but now they've already been judged for design. Okay, in speed races, the scouts will go to a special prep area called the pit until their name's announced for a heat. All cars race 4 times, once in each lane. There are 4 scouts racing in each heat. And the race software determines who's racing against who. So we hope your child can race against his friends, but we can't guarantee that. Winners declared by lowest overall time. We drop the slowest time for each car. We generally find there's one lane on the track that is slower than all the others, or sometimes your car just has problems. A wheel did something weird. Okay? The overall time is determined by their 3 fastest races. This is just a little side note that I'm going to say. If you work with your child and coach your child ahead of time, when you have them go put their car up there, after they set their car down, have them pull their wheels away from the body and get them out on the end of the axles. They don't always stay there, but it helps with the start. Okay, because when it's pushed up against the body, now you've got that wheel rubbing against the wood and you're going to have some high friction. Sometimes the kids remember, sometimes the kids don't remember. Winners for both speed and design are announced at the conclusion of the den races. And then the top 2 from each category are going to return to the impound lot because they're going to race and compete again later in the day. Everybody else can retrieve their cars at that time. We don't keep any cars until district. Everybody should go home with their car at the end of the day. Okay? So this is one of the kids who's adjusting the wheels on his car after he put it there. He's pretty much going for speed. You can see he's kind of next to a design there, the Minion car. These are the kids. So we have a pit over here where the rest of the den is sitting, but we have 4 blocks here for our 4 racers, numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that they can each see their car at the finish. Okay, they've obviously been watching it there. Okay, here we have a very nice view of the cars coming into the finish line. And again, the kids can see what the finish is on the other side of the ending gate there. Okay, so some design tips. Originality and creativity are paramount. It's much better to make a homemade car. It's actually better if the car has some imperfections and looks more believable. We've had parents in the past not vote for cars, or not parents, but other people not vote for cars because they thought it was too professional. It turned out we had some really talented sculpting kids, but people could not believe that they were really done by the kids. They were sure it was the parents. When I vote, I never vote for store-bought stuff. So if you've just got a wood block and you've glued a plastic Batman car on top of it, it's not going to get my vote for creativity. Fit and finish are very important. Paint quality, clear coating. Themes are cool, but make them age appropriate. There's not too many kids who should be having a car that's designed with like Rush on it, or things like the band Rush, or something like that. You know, we will probably see a lot of Minecraft and Fortnite cars and some Star Wars cars. You know, it's whatever you think you can do with your child is fine, as long as it's, again, age appropriate. So no Deadpool cars. Judging. At the pack level, we have members of Troop 2 vote for the best designs. At the districts, they do it a different way. At districts, you only race in the speed race, or you compete in the design competition. You don't do both. And so they will get all the design cars there, and then before the speed racers start racing, they march through and they all vote for their favorite cars. Okay, it's usually like the first couple of cars there because they've all looked at those and they've already written them down before they went down the whole line. But that's how they do it at districts. Okay. These are some different winning designs. Again, the scout who did this R2-D2 car also did the Pikachu driving Pikachu car, and I completely believe that that child did it. He was a very, very talented artist. And his brother did the Minion in a banana car. This one won just because the design was so cool. This one did well because kids like, even though it was just a wedge car, it had an arrow on top, and that made it cool looking. Okay. There's different plans online. You can find things. We've had some X-Wing fighter cars in the last couple of years and things like that. But like, again, if you've got a figure like this, you're obviously not going for speed. You're obviously going for design because they're going to slow it down a lot. There is also a new category for Northwest District called high-tech design. In order to compete in the high-tech design competition, cars have to incorporate lights or electronics or black light sensitive components. Conveniently, the Scout Shop sells black light stickers, black light paint, and black light wheels. Okay? We don't have a separate category for high-tech design here at the pack. So people doing high-tech design will compete just with everybody else in the design competition. However, if we have 2 kids from a den that we can send to the design competition, but we also have 2 high-tech design, we will send all 4 of them to the districts to compete. Okay? So even if we're sending like the 4th or 5th place person in design, just to get, because we want to max out our number of kids that we can send. So last year, I think everybody who did high tech got to go to districts because we didn't have very many people who did it. Last minute adjustments, minor help are available on race day. It's a great opportunity for everybody to learn. Prettiest car is not the fastest, we know that. Please, please, please coach your child. The Scouts are courteous, they're helpful, they're good sports. Encourage them to cheer for their friends. Please, please, please tell them not to boo somebody who's doing well, even if they don't like the child. I don't want to hear that. We want good sportsmanship on the day of the race. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As I said, I don't divulge all my secrets, but I'm always happy to help and give advice. And most of all, have fun. It really should be a fun opportunity. Over the years, it has been some of the best time, best quality father and son time. My kids and I, because we go down in the basement, we leave mom upstairs so she can't actually see how close my kids' hands are to power tools. And we go down and we do some work and have some fun together. And it's really cool. And it's to the point now, so last year my son was in 3rd grade and he was doing a lot of the stuff by himself. And I can see that transition from year to year, from being the helpless kid to the kid who literally last year said, "Dad, I know how to do this. You don't have to help." Okay, I'll just sit here on my hands and keep you company for an hour or 2, okay? But have fun. Finally, last but not least, I said a couple of times, I have outlaw cars up here. We have an outlaw Pinewood Derby for parents because we know parents like to build the cars, okay? So, parents like to build a car too. So parents, siblings, friends, anybody outside of the actual pack Cub Scouts who'd like to make and race derby cars are invited to participate in our outlaw derby. It's scheduled at the end of the race day. There's a $10 entrance fee per car. We donate that money. So last year, I think we donated it here to the church because they've been nice to us over the years and let us use the facilities. We've done it before to Scout Reach, which is an inner city program that Scouts run. The rules are relaxed for the Outlaw Derby. So these were last year's rules. You still have to start with the wooden kit. It has to have 4 wheels, 2 on each side, but only 3 of them have to touch. So all of my Outlaw cars, only 3 of my wheels touch. The 4th one just sits there. It's a gravity-driven race, so again, we're still not allowed to use carbon dioxide, pressurized carbon dioxide canisters in there. If a car comes off the track or interferes with another car, it's disqualified. So you cannot, like in the racing movies, have the little arm that comes out and punches the car next to you. Can't do any James Bond stuff. We still can't scoop the noses. Wheels cannot extend beyond the front of the car body. However, they do not have to be in the slots. So again, that's why most of these illegal cars that I was showing you have such long wheelbases, because a longer wheelbase lends more stability to the car. Okay, so that's one of those things you can do if you're racing in that one. Still only have the dry powdered lubricants. I don't know, last year we took the 5-ounce rule off and we just let people make whatever weight car they wanted. So I'm not even sure, I think this one's closer to 7 ounces. There's just a big metal rod glued in the back end of it. So it's hollowed out and stuffed with a metal rod. It's fun. It's usually, there's going to be some parents the same parents who get into it every year because we get into it a little too seriously. Like I said, I've built a wooden track in my basement before to practice racing cars with my kids. And there's other dads and moms and grandparents who do the same thing. It's a fun time. We don't take it too seriously. There's usually some goofy smack talk that goes on while we're in the pit. It is quite a bit of fun. But if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. It really is a great lot of fun. My son, his first year, my older son, when he was a first grader, ran into somebody in our neighborhood who loved making Pinewood Derby cars with his kids, and he preached the gospel of Pinewood Derby to us. And we started doing this about 6 years ago or so because we noticed that the first year, people coming in racing for the first time were having a hard time competing against people who'd done it before. They just didn't have they had no idea what they were getting into with Pinewood Derby. Again, be as serious with it as you want. If your child doesn't care about the race, you don't have to work real hard on it. Probably want to work hard on it enough that their car finishes the race, because it gets a little embarrassing if you have to go push the car across the finish line. But it really should just be a good time, especially you and your child or grandpa, grandma, whoever, and the child working together on it. Okay?